We've all heard the saying, time is money, but few understand just how much truth lies in this statement. There was a time when I was stuck in a cycle of endless struggle. I had dreams, but no means to make them a reality. I had ambitions, but I lacked the resources to bring them to life. I was broke, constantly working harder, but getting nowhere. I felt trapped in a never-ending loop of bills, expenses, and unmet goals. I know how it feels to wake up and wonder if life is ever going to change, to look at your bank balance and feel like there's no way out. I understand the stress of living paycheck to paycheck, with no savings or financial security in sight. But today I'm a millionaire. My life has completely transformed, and I owe it to the things I gave up, the habits, mindsets, and routines that were holding me back. In this article, I'll share with you the 7 key things I quit that helped me break free from my past and build a successful life. These were not just about letting go of certain behaviors. They were about shifting my mindset, changing my perspective, and ultimately, rewiring my approach to life. 1. I quit wasting time on social media. One of the first things I had to let go of was mindlessly scrolling through social media. We all know how addictive it can be. 1 minute you're checking your feed, and the next thing you know, an hour has passed. Social media may seem harmless, but it can be one of the most significant time wasters in our lives. It robs us of precious hours that could be better spent on productive activities. At first, I justified my time on social media by telling myself it was for networking or keeping up with friends. But as I grew more aware of my goals and my aspirations, I realized how much time I was wasting. Social media was a distraction, a constant influx of irrelevant content that did nothing to help me grow. I started setting boundaries. Instead of mindlessly scrolling, I created a schedule for checking my social media accounts. I decided to limit my usage to 30 minutes a day and would only check notifications or messages during specific times. This freed up hours each day, which I started spending on reading, learning, and working on my business. Cutting out the constant barrage of notifications and mindless scrolling helped me reclaim my time. I began to focus on activities that moved me closer to my goals instead of losing myself in the digital noise. Procrastination was my second biggest obstacle. I had dreams, but I constantly put off working towards them. It wasn't because I lacked the skills or knowledge. It was because I was afraid to fail. So I pushed my goals aside and found excuses to avoid taking action. Procrastination is a form of self-sabotage. It's a way of avoiding the discomfort of failure, but it also keeps us stuck in the same place. I had to confront this behavior head-on. The truth was, I wasn't going to magically wake up and have everything I wanted handed to me. Success was going to require consistent effort, and procrastinating was only delaying my progress. I started by breaking down my goals into smaller, actionable steps. Instead of thinking about everything I had to do, I focused on the immediate next step. I stopped waiting for the perfect time to start and just took action, even if it was small. Once I started moving, I found that the momentum carried me forward. By taking consistent small actions every day, I made incredible progress. Procrastination was no longer a roadblock, it became a thing of the past. If I had to sum up this lesson in one phrase, it would be, do it now, not later. I was afraid to take risks because I worried about being judged. This fear of judgment was keeping me in my comfort zone where nothing ever changed. It wasn't until I realized that the people whose opinions I feared were not the ones living my life that I started to let go. I understood that no matter what I did, there would always be critics, and that's okay. The only opinion that truly mattered was mine. I began to take risks, to embrace failure, and to move forward without worrying about the judgments of others. This was a huge mindset shift. I stopped living my life for others and started living it for myself. The fear of judgment no longer held me back, and that was when I truly began to make progress. In line with quitting the fear of judgment, I also had to stop trying to please everyone. I was constantly overcommitting myself to others, agreeing to things I didn't want to do and spreading myself too thin. I realized that I couldn't please everyone, and that was perfectly okay. By setting boundaries and saying no when necessary, I started to focus on my own growth. I stopped being a people pleaser and started being true to myself. The people who truly mattered respected my boundaries, and those who didn't, well, I learned to let go. 5. I quit overthinking. Overthinking was another habit that kept me stuck. I would spend hours, days, even weeks overanalyzing every decision. Whether it was a business opportunity, a personal relationship, or a financial investment, I would constantly second-guess myself. The truth is, overthinking only holds you back. It paralyzes you with doubt and makes it nearly impossible to take decisive action. I had to learn to trust my instincts and take imperfect action, even if I wasn't 100% sure of the outcome. It wasn't until I started making decisions faster and learning from my mistakes that I began to see real progress. Now I make decisions based on the best information available at the time and trust that I can course correct if needed. Overthinking no longer has a place in my life. I quit spending money on things I didn't need. When I was broke, I made the mistake of living beyond my means. I thought that having the latest gadgets, fancy clothes, or expensive dinners would make me happy. But in reality, it only drained my bank account and kept me stuck in the cycle of debt. I made the decision to stop spending money on things I didn't need. I focused on building my wealth, not on temporary pleasures. I learned the importance of budgeting, saving, and investing. Once I shifted my spending habits, my financial situation began to change. I no longer lived paycheck to paycheck. I started to accumulate savings and make smarter investments. I quit giving up too soon. The final thing I quit was giving up. Success doesn't happen overnight. There were times when I wanted to quit, when I felt like everything was falling apart, but I kept going. I refused to let failure define me. The road to success is not a straight line. It's full of setbacks, challenges, and failures. But if you keep going, eventually, you will succeed. I learned that persistence is key, and that failure is just a stepping stone on the path to success.